that you must listen very carefully to your enemies, because sometimes they tell you the truth that you do not want to hear but need to hear. Sometimes you are surrounded by a coterie of people who pretend to be your friends, but they are not. They are friends of the office that you hold and the things and the doors that you can open for them. That requires discernment. That requires detachment. That requires focus. That requires selflessness. That requires intellectual firepower and spiritual contentment. Easier said than done. You know, power, it is said, corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. But I remember the great Tanzanian President Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere used to say that when you are called upon to serve, remember that you are not necessarily the best, but you've been given the honor and privilege of serving. That is why we call you honorable. That is why sometimes we even call you excellency, not because you are excellent yourself, but we expect you to do excellent things. If you surround yourself with the wrong people who will continue to worship you, very soon you get used to being worshipped, then you become a demigod and you become hostile to truth and you become attracted to flattery. The strength of character is very important, and power does not change people. Power reveals who you truly are or truly are. I've interacted with individuals even across this continent, men and women who mean well and they serve well. I was telling a friend of mine who is a senior politician in Kenya that one of the greatest hallmarks of a servant leader is that when he or she receives a letter from a citizen, he or she acknowledges the letter. And I've dealt with many African heads of state, and to their credit, quite a number of them, they will cause the letter to be acknowledged. In Kenya, which is my country, you write to leaders, they never respond. Never. Because there is arrogance, which is tragic. So what must one do when one gets into public office? Humility must never abandon you. I've had the opportunity myself of serving in public spaces in this country on 3 different occasions, and in my view, have never changed. I've always realized that power is temporal and that you only do your bit and leave. As William Shakespeare once said, all the world is but a stage. We have our comings and goings. If you remember that, you'll remember to always have humility as your shadow. Most African politicians, I'm very reluctant to use the word leaders when I make reference to most African politicians. They occupy positions of leadership, but they are not leaders, most of them. First of all, the intention with which they enter into leadership is the problem. They seek office because they love power and privilege and opportunity that it provides to them. They want to become wealthy. And the easiest and shortest avenue to wealth in Africa today is public office. With the minimum effort, you become a multi-millionaire. They go there in order to be worshipped. And they go there not to do the right thing. And once they have been in office, they do so many wrong things that it becomes dangerous for them to leave office. So their continued occupation of office is also to ensure that they enjoy immunity that comes with office. But when you are a good leader who does the right thing, you do not fear to leave office because Nothing has changed. And I've seen leaders of that ilk in this part of the continent. And there are quite a number of sprinkling of leaders who have left office and are doing great things. Joaquim Chisano in Mozambique. Ifikepunye Pohamba in Botswana. People like my good friend Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete, Ali Hassan Mwinyi in Tanzania, Benjamin William Mkapa, Joaquim Chisano, as I've said, of Mozambique. These are people who have left office and nothing is happening to them because they are men and women of integrity. John Mahama of Ghana. There are quite a number of them now across the continent who do not fear being out of office, and they are doing great things once they leave office. But there are others who will never leave office, because the day they leave office, holding all factors constant, they ought to be arrested.
If there is one person in Africa whom I have always thought to be for Africa, whom sometimes I disagree with some of his take, but I respect them, I respect his opinion, because I honestly believe he is someone way smarter than myself. He is someone who understands the whole thing. He is someone who has seen enough. And he is someone who people should take seriously. That person is no other than Professor P.L.O. Lumumba. He has been an outspoken critic of leaders who do not have respect for their countries, who do not have respect for their people, who do not have respect for the office they occupied. He has been so straightforward on corruption, embezzlement, and misuse of power in Africa. Because if there's one thing that we Africans have seen time and time again, is terrible leaders who come in pretending they are for Africans. They are for the people they are supposed to be representing. They are for the country. They are there to defend and build the country. They are there to make sure that the ordinary person in the street has something to eat. They are there to make sure that people have good quality jobs. They are there to make sure that people's lives can be improved upon. They are there to make sure that people live happily. People have the opportunity to voice out their opinion, to voice out their concern, to voice out their discomfort. That is what they will say before they want to get into office. Before they get into office, they will promise all that. They will even went as far as promise to listen to the people when they talk. That everyone's concern will be looked into, that everyone's opinion will be put under consideration. That is what they will tell us. But all that will quickly change when they get into office. When they get into office, they don't care about anybody anymore. They started doing what they want to do. They started embezzling. They started misappropriating funds. They started arresting anyone who criticized them. They started arresting all their oppositions and locked them up. Anyone who protests will be arrested. Anyone who said anything they don't like will be arrested. They totally forget all their promises. They totally forget it. It's really sad. It's really sad that Africa is the only continent that is still so much underdeveloped. Africa is the only continent that is super rich, but yet still the people are super poor. Africa is the only continent that politicians are millionaires and billionaires. Africa is the only continent that leaders do things with impunity, that they can do things and no one can ask them why. There is no accountability. There is no love for motherland. There is no love for the people. There is no respect for the country or the office they occupied. It's only in Africa that a leader will go on national television and tell the people, if you guys protest, I will let the military crush every single one of you. And everyone will sit quietly, will be scared to go out. It's only in Africa. So when you hear Prof saying all this, Prof is not just talking because he wants to talk. Prof is someone who has seen the way things are in Africa and he is totally disappointed. Prof is someone who would have loved Africa to be a whole different place. Prof is someone who, if given the opportunity, would change Africa for the better or for the best. Because he is someone who hasn't let power corrupt him, who hasn't let the office he has occupied change him, who has always spoken out, who has always warned us, who has never failed to educate us on who we are supposed to be, on what we can do for Mother Africa, and what we must do to make sure that Africa became a new story. For that, I really respect him. So, I will end this video by saying, if there's one thing that is constant in life, is change. Change will come whether we like it or not. Now, we can decide to let change be what we want rather than what we don't want. Or we can decide that the change that will take place will be the change we put in motion rather than the one being put by other people. So we all must start doing our part to make sure that the change that unfolded will be the one we put in place, will be the one that benefits all of us. Do your part. I'm doing my part. We all must do our part. Prof has done his own part. Everyone must do their part. But you guys out there, what is your take on Prof's analysis of African leaders? Do you think he is right? How is the leader in your country like? Is he a dictator? Is he an authoritarian? Or is he someone who loves the people, who is trying to fix the country, who is doing his best to make sure that the ordinary person in the street be well off? Share your thoughts and opinions with us in the comment section below, because like always, we love hearing what you have to say. And also, please don't forget to like this video, share this video, follow our Facebook page, and most importantly, subscribe to this YouTube channel, because little bit of goodwill, like the one you're doing just now, help us a lot, and we shall forever be grateful to you. So thank you very much for doing just that. And like always, see you in the next one.